Prabhupada Chaitanya Das here with the Bhakti House, and let's just see. So it's been quite a day, quite busy. I probably look exhausted. I've been outside mowing and stuff, the Bhakti House here. And anyway, I think I've maybe mentioned this before, but when I'm mowing outside, even though it may be very hot out this time of year in the summertime here in Michigan, it's a great, I'm thinking of Krishna. I've got so many things that I find myself doing, like japa, and then my thoughts, my inward thoughts turn to Krishna. And when that happens, I tend to, I don't know, it's like just have some incredible, I guess you would say, like communion in a sense, like communing. And, it's about relationship, right? Just like community is about relationship. And all of us that's a part of this community here that have subscribed to this channel or that have, come on to everything. So I guess what I want to talk about tonight is something that I think is useful. Now, I did a blog post on this yesterday. I did several blog posts yesterday. I'd actually written some earlier in the weekend, but then I didn't get a chance to actually post them. So then I ended up posting several yesterday. And then I also did some more writing today and got some more out as well. So if you guys go to TheBhaktiHouse.org/blog, you can read all about everything that's kind of the latest ongoing things. I try to put things in the description of these videos. However, it doesn't always make it there. So if I can at least kind of get you in the right direction, if you just go to our website, TheBhaktiHouse.org, TheBhaktiHouse.org, O-R-G. And then in the ribbon on the top there in the navigation bar, you can just click on blog and it will take you right to the latest articles. And these are some of the different teachings and things that we are focusing on, like in this particular moment. So so I guess what I'm trying to get at is the article, the blog that I was writing on and everything coming about. Hey there, I see some people in the chat, so welcome. Welcome to the Bhakti House. Welcome to the channel. But to kind of stay on point here, the topic that I really want to talk on is evening sadhana. So sadhana is a word that kind of derived from like working toward a goal. And I write about this all in the article. So if you want to get more details on exactly what sadhana is and so much more, you can probably find a lot more in the blog. But for those of you that don't like to read, which is a lot of people these days, we want everything so quick. The thing that I would tell you is evening sadhana is like toward relationship with God. And it doesn't, however you define it. But in Bhakti culture, we turn to God as like Krishna. But if you prefer some other name, go right ahead. And whatever brings you closer to God, that's perfectly okay with us. No judgment. So the thing though is, like when you're doing like an evening sadhana, maybe your life is a little tipsy-turvy, right? Like we go through some things, and life isn't always like sunshine and roses or sunshine and rainbows or however the saying goes. A lot of times, we find ourselves just exhausted. We find ourselves kind of browbeaten, kind of like down in the dumps, depressed, agitated, stressed. I mean, there's a lot of emotions that as a human being we feel from time to time. And I just want to say that it's important that when we are just kind of going through the motions of life, and it could just be that you're going through the motions. Maybe life isn't up or down. Maybe you're just kind of neutral. But whatever the situation is that you're experiencing, or that you're feeling, or that you're going through, it is enough sometimes. Like, and I'll tell you, like in our culture, there's a lot of benefit to getting up really early, like 3, 4 o'clock in the morning, and then doing sadhana during those hours. But a lot of people, they get up, they go to work around 7 o'clock, 8 o'clock in the morning, or they have to get up pretty early and then get ready and go to work, and they've got their mind in that direction before they even leave the house. And they're thinking, oh, I've got this to do, I've got this meeting, I've got this and that, and blah, blah, blah. So for a lot of people, early morning sadhana doesn't necessarily work so well. It could just be that you think in your mind, I just need an extra hour of sleep, or I need a couple extra hours of sleep, or I need to get as much sleep as I can before I go to, before I have to go to work, before I have to get out there into the world and make things happen and do what it is that I do. And you may even be tired kind of in the mornings, and you're just trying to people resort to all kinds of things, right? Caffeine, they need their morning coffee and tea, all these kind of things. We see this in every culture, right? There's always that kind of little ceremony that we give ourselves, right? Whether it's the person stopping off at Starbucks or Bixby's Coffee or Tim Hortons or McDonald's or wherever it is that you go for your morning cup of joe, that type of thing. In our culture, we don't really delve into coffee and caffeine and stuff, we take kind of commitments against those things. But, in everyday life, you see so many people, enjoying that cup of coffee or, some toast and jam or whatever it is that people, that fancies your interest. And so people are trying to get up and about and get ready. Well, in the evening time, you're off work. Maybe you've had a long day of work and you're just exhausted and you're thinking to yourself, I just need something to eat. I need to watch a little television. I need to just kind of relax a little bit and then pass out. The idea of doing any kind of work outside of your everyday work probably doesn't really interest you too much. Even work that is required, like in spiritual life, maybe it's reading some spiritual text or, studying something that's a little philosophical. It may be a little too much sometimes for people. And that may be especially true in the morning, or it could be especially true like in the evening. When that kind of twilight time starts to happen, that kind of thing. Hello, Maha. So we see these kind of things, take place and go on and everything. Well, the post that I just recently wrote was on doing like evening sadhana. Some people, and I've heard different people have different opinions about doing sadhana or like spiritual development like in the evening time. But in my personal opinion, I don't think any time to think about God or to put your mind in that direction is ever a bad idea. We can become attached to our constraints sometimes, right? And so, even our teachers, they sometimes did things that were not 100% aligned with what is the protocols, right? The everyday protocols. And I think sometimes they did that to teach us, that we can even become too attached sometimes to our disciplines or our protocols, that type of thing. But anyways, that's debatable, and that's something that, I'll leave it to you to make up your own mind on those kind of things. One thing that I do find, though, is sometimes it's nice to just, in the evening time, find a quiet corner. And it doesn't matter, and I talk about all this in the article as well. It doesn't matter if it's a bhakti house like here, or if it's a church, or if it's just a private room in your house, or if it's just a closet, or if it's just a quiet corner. And it doesn't matter if your house is messy, maybe you didn't get the house cleaned up and you're too exhausted to clean the house. Maybe you've just let things go and you're kind of going through everything. And, and this tends to be the pattern of behavior that tends to take place, right? We sometimes will kind of let ourselves go. And as we let ourselves go, or we let our mind go, or maybe we get too absorbed in one particular direction. Maybe it's like we consume ourselves in our work, and so then our family life suffers, or our home life suffers, or our everyday routines suffer. We forget to take the trash out. We forget to do this. We forget to do that. It becomes very much less important to us than the things that are objectively bringing us an income so that we can afford all those things anyway, right? So that can be kind of problematic eventually. But we say, well, I've got some time on that. I don't necessarily have to clean my house today. I don't have to, clean the toilet, clean the bathtub, the shower, the sinks, any of this kind of stuff. I don't have to do any of it. I don't have to clean the kitchen, all these kind of things. And we can let it go and this and that, okay, fine. Okay, fine, no big deal. But what I think you'll find is if you find that that stuff is too much for you, sometimes just finding a quiet corner that you can pray or that you can do some japa, some meditation, some breathing exercises even, or even a little yoga if you feel like doing yoga, some exercises, whether it's just, sitting quietly like in the lotus pose or cross-legged or just, leaning up against the back of with the wall behind your back or something, where you're kind of supported a little bit, where you can kind of close your eyes and you can just say to yourself, Lord, you could talk to God and say, Lord, I am just going through it right now. And, I could be doing any other thing in the world right now, but I just don't feel like doing it. Lord, please give me some strength, give me some energy so that I can keep pushing forward and that I can continue serving you and that I can continue getting to know you better and that I am in alignment with my spiritual life more and more. Because I know at the end of the day that my relationship with you is really, truly the only thing in this material life that truly, honestly matters anyway. Other things, my duties and responsibilities and obligations in life and all these kind of mundane activities, they're secondary to you. And I'm just really sorry that I tend to put these things first before you. Lord, I'm a work in progress. Please, thank you for your mercy. Thank you for your grace. I just really need you in my life. And I just have to pray to you and just say, God, I need you. And that can sometimes be enough, right? It can just be enough. And, if you're not a very religious person, and a lot of people are not these days, then maybe something else works for you. Maybe you believe in your higher self, or you want to meditate on something that is also important to you, something otherwise meaningful. But I'm telling you, like just the very act of like praying, doing some kind of meditation. We do the Maha Mantra meditation. That's one of the ones that our culture really prescribes, especially like in this particular age. And it's the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra, and it simply goes Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. And that Maha Mantra, Maha just means great, and mantra is like to calm the mind. You think of man as mind. It's like when the mind becomes agitated, you can just calm it by just chanting this mantra if you choose to. And then, of course, just some simple prayer. Sometimes it's enough to do some simple prayer. Sometimes it's really honestly enough just to light a candle and, hold your hands, in prayer pose. I would use both hands here, but I don't I've got the other one on the phone here, so I'm doing this video. So that's kind of the thing that I really wanted to kind of bring out is like, sometimes we just find ourselves like just needing some refuge, and so even if it, but we say, well, I'll do that when I clean the house, or I'll do that when the kitchen is perfect. I don't want to like, call on God or try to worship God in a messy environment and stuff. It's not right. I just don't feel right doing it. But I'll tell you something, God, at the end of the day, I really feel that it's a relationship, because then that just pushes a relationship. It's almost like saying, I'll go help my neighbor mow their grass when I just have a little bit of rest, and I won't talk to them or anything. I know that they're elderly and this and that, but I'm not going to do that right now because it's just, I can't physically do it. But sometimes, you see them out in the yard. We see some neighbors sometimes out in the yard, and sometimes it's enough just to go over and to talk to them, and to be friendly. And, regardless of what you're doing or what, you said you would do or this, that, and the other, sometimes it's just enough to connect. And that relationship that you have or that you build with the people around you, when it's done from the heart, like when you connect with God from the heart, really it doesn't matter what's going on or where you're at or, what place you're at. You can be on a car ride, sitting in a passenger seat or the back seat of a vehicle, and someone else doing the driving and stuff. And you can just simply close your eyes and have some very good prayer with God, some good relationship. And I'll tell you, sometimes people say, well, that stuff doesn't really work, or, I don't feel like doing that, or that's stupid, or this and that, and blah, blah, blah. I just encourage people just to give it a try. I mean, it doesn't, people have been doing this, this act of prayer for eons and eons of years, time and time again for so very long. And there was a reason that people did those things, and unless you actually just kind of give it a try and just, don't care what other people think or don't try to really overthink it. I think people sometimes overthink things. I really do. I'm guilty personally. I do sometimes overthink things myself, but at the end of the day, it's about like just being yourself and being genuine and, you know, and having some kind of connection with the divine, with God. Um, and that's really it. Um, and I'll tell you something, you can learn things from so many people, right? I was just, as I was recording this, I was thinking of something that someone once told me, a dear devotee, someone that I sometimes had mixed emotions about, like just, my mind would wander into certain gray areas and some not so nice areas and stuff, and I would think some negative things about this particular devotee. And, God forgive me for doing that. And I have no idea why. I mean, this person was nothing but ever really kind to me. And they are a very genuinely kind person. But I learn even from this person certain things, like they have certain mannerisms, or if you're around people for long enough, you really do become more like the people around you. We take on the characteristics of those people and stuff. So if you're around God or God's devotees long enough, then you'll start to also take on these qualities. And I think that is part of this whole connection. Maybe God uses us as kind of like instruments in that regard. I know, like in Christianity, they talk a lot about like ministering and, doing a lot of things like going out and connecting with people and this and that, and sharing the gospel and sharing the good news of Jesus and all the things that Jesus did and so on and so forth, And, and there's a lot of benefit to that, I would say. There's a lot of people have a lot of love for things if done in a nice way. I mean, sometimes people do things in not so nice ways, and then of course we form opinions and judgments and things on that end. But and in our culture, our bhakti culture, like with Krishna and his pastimes and Krishna Katha, just the simple act of reading some of the things that Krishna did in his past, through the Shastras, through some of our sacred texts. And it can be really enlightening, and it can feel like you're right there with Krishna and just really connected. It's, in many ways, it's called like narrative transportation theory, where we actually become part of the story. We actually literally become part of the story. Our minds take that in. And that's one of the ways that we remember things so nicely, so easily. So when you're telling someone a story, it's easier for them to remember than if you're just giving them plain facts. And so I think it's really interesting or really neat to know this. But it could be, I mean, literally, like if you just take you could take like a yoga mat, have a yoga mat right here. I'll sit on it sometimes and then just close my eyes and, just concentrate on my breathing for a little bit until I feel like it's the right time to really start to talk to God and to say some prayers. And then I'll do some japa. I'll do some rounds of japa, the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra, and I'll just feel like really blissful. I mean, my energy level increases. I can't really explain how that works, but it just does. And other devotees have told me that they have that same kind of experience as well. So just FYI, I thought I'd share that with you. What are some other things that I would say you can do? So like lighting some incense, for example. If you want to light some incense, sometimes that's enough to kind of give you some peace. And it's also very cooling. In India, sometimes we call it agrabati, but it's just incense. Some nag champa or some sandalwood, if you burn those incense sticks, it has a very cooling sensation. So it actually, even though your house may be the same temperature, just that scent that's wafting through the air, it makes it just very calming and peaceful kind of scent. And these things bring us closer to God and also make us feel cooler, bring our energy level down. And when you're overly hot, sometimes you might be very stressed or you could be very tired even. or anxiety-ridden stuff. The temperature has a lot to do with sometimes our moods, right? And then when it's really, really cold, it's like hibernation mode, right? Or, it can be really comforting also. Like you're sitting in front of a fire with, you know, a cup of tea or something like that. We do the non-tea. It's like herbal tea, non-caffeinated herbal tea, or some ginger water or something like that, whatever you like. But you're sitting there and stuff, and you're just so grateful for like your life. You're so grateful for the people in your life. You're so grateful for your relationship with God and the devotees, and and that you're able to actually go and carry out activities, right? I mean, there's a lot of people that they're just not in that, they're not in a situation that they have that, So if you're able and capable, then just be very. I think really we don't really think about how good we have it until something comes along and takes it away from us. And I think that gratitude really does create a more positive attitude. Like when you really have gratitude, it creates a positive attitude. Kind of a rhyme there, but I'm not trying to be cliche at all. But I really do believe that. I know myself, for example, when I'm in a good mood and I'm really grateful for my life, and I'm grateful for the people in my life, and all these kind of things. And it can be the littlest thing that someone does. Um, there's a young man. I was outside mowing the grass here at the Bhakti House, and we're monks and stuff, and so sometimes the people from the neighborhood may have a little bit of hesitation towards us or whatever, or they may want to engage us, or they're just curious. I mean, there's a lot of different reactions that I will tell you that we get. But the young boy, maybe a high school teenage boy, came by and he was thirsty. It's really hot outside, and he asked if I had some water that he could get. He said, "I'll drink anything at this point." He's like, "I'm just so thirsty. It's so hot out." And he'd been walking from some place here in the city to some other location. Who knows? Maybe home or something. And I said, "Yeah, of course. Yeah, let me get you some water." So I came and gave him some water and everything like that. And it was just, but he was very nice and very kind. And as he was leaving and all, he just said, "God bless you." And that to me was just really amazing, that someone his age, that could be thinking so many different other activities, but that just had that, that were receptive, or had some kind of connection to God in some capacity. What that is, I have no idea. But in fact, this was the first time I met the young man. And of course, then I invited him. I said, this is the Bhakti House. If you like music, if you like chanting and stuff, always feel welcome by here anytime. And let me know, and I can, give you a tour of the place, whatever. And so he was pretty receptive to it. And then, I wished him well and gave him a blessing, and he took off. But my point for bringing all this about is that it is like these little interactions, these little things that God puts in our life, And, and me personally, I was just kind of in my own zone. I was thinking, I was pushing the little reel lawnmower and stuff, and when you're in your head, sometimes it's like especially when you're doing something that is kind of mundane, like mowing grass, for example, maybe something that it's a task that needs to be done, but it's just something that you don't really prefer to do. You'd prefer to be doing other things, right? But when you're actually out there doing it, sometimes we can disconnect from those things by just seeking out God. So that's another thing that I wanted to kind of bring out here in this video. Another point is, if you feel like, life is throwing you too much, and I was having a conversation with a dear devotee earlier today, and the devotee was just giving me some explanation of some of the things that was going on in her life and that. And, I was just like, as I was listening, or going back and forth communicating, it was like, I was just thinking in my mind, wow, that is so much. That is just too much for one person to be dealing with it, And the person always seems strong and capable, and God has really blessed this devotee quite a lot. But it's just like sometimes in life, we get thrown a lot of stressful things, just compounding one on top of another on top of another. And, sometimes we even get resentful because the people in our life, they're going through hard things, and then they're trying to, take from us just so that they can keep themselves afloat, or, so that they can continue on and try to have some kind of peace and that type of thing. And so, there's a lot of things that go on that in our lives we never know exactly what's going on. Hello from Spain. Hi, Maria. Nice to have you here. So if you are like going through those kind of things, maybe one thing also to keep in mind, and I think this is sort of a valuable idea, is that when life is giving you too much, right? And you have like all these things that's hitting you, and you don't think it can really get much worse, and then something else comes and happens, right? And it's just almost comical in a way. You're just like, I can't get any breaks here, like this is the time like you lost everything, and then something else happens, and then this happens, and then this happens, and then somebody else needs you here, and all these kind of things, and you're like, what is going on? And you may even ask God. You might say, God, and maybe you never talk to God, but you say, God, why is all this stuff happening to me? Like, there's no rhyme or reason to it. Is it just luck? Is it just my bad luck? I mean, come on, things were so good just like 12 months ago, 24 months ago, 36 months ago, 72 months ago, whatever. And now it's like, geez, it's one thing on top of another on top of another. And, and if you feel that way, or if you ever just feel like, geez, I'm not getting younger, I've got all these things going on in my life, and it's just like, why can't I catch any breaks? These are my desires over here, and I'm definitely not getting any of those things. In fact, I'm getting a lot more of the stuff that I'm not really wanting. What in the world, and when those kind of things are happening and stuff, you may reach out to God and just start to question like your sanity or your reality, or, and when that happens, you may actually, when you're seeking God, or you're actually talking to God, or you're praying, I guess that's the technically proper word for it, is prayer, right? It's when we're talking to God or supplicating, ourselves to the Lord. Then when that is going on, we may in those moments get a sense of peace and a sense of calm. And one of the reasons I think that happens very often is because when we're doing that, we're turned off from all this other stuff going on, right? We're turned off from any breaks or anything. It's like all these things are happening, and it's like, whoo, like, wow, what to do. And then you're at your wit's end, and then that's when the calm comes, right? That's when we talk to God, and that's when we feel God's mercy, God's grace in our life begin to start speaking to us, and it can be it can be like imagined words. It can be like just an utter sense of peace that you're feeling. And God talks to us in many different ways, even outside of like our English language or whatever language is your mother tongue, even outside of that, God can talk to us in so many different ways, through other people, through the calm of our mind when we're actually in that state of grace. And that's why I think it's so important to have these moments, right? It's good for your psyche, it's good for your soul. In like a lot of metaphysical circles, they say they have a kind of a what do you call it, colloquialism or something along those lines, where it's like body, mind, and spirit. We hear these things. We want to be like centered in terms of body, mind, and spirit. So like we want our minds to be calm. We want our body to be healthy. We want our spiritual life to be nice. We want to be kind of well-rounded, right? We want a nice balance in our life of things going on. So yeah, when these kind of things are happening and stuff, and we're just allowing ourselves to just go inward, and but it can become like a routine, and that's what sadhana really is, right? It's kind of that spiritual activity that you do every day, that devotional, whatever works for you. I mean, and I think it's different. Certain people respond to certain things differently. I love to do japa. I mean, especially early in the morning. I can do 16 rounds now, and I don't even think about it, I mean, I'm just so into it. In the evening time, though, I find myself sometimes I'll grab a book and I'll start reading, and sometimes I'll read it out loud to other devotees and stuff that want to listen, or maybe they're engaged in other activities, but they just want to kind of in the periphery listen, and that's great too for them and for me, of course. But when we're doing these kind of things and we're like feeling this sense of like, just these calming activities, just things that are nice. Sometimes it's nice, the aromatherapy from a candle, like if you have a scented candle, just having that lit and the lights down kind of low, give you a sense of calm and a sense of peace, and it kind of creates the mood, or in our culture, we call it like the bhava. It's like the mood of the experience of the things going on around us. Sometimes when we're doing kirtan, for example, we go down here quite regularly to the park. From the Bhakti House, it's about 1.8 miles. And it's I can never remember the name of this park, but I can tell you that it's Hardy, or oh geez, it's like escaping me. I just totally had it just a moment ago. Maybe I'll do like a post on that for you guys. But this park is kind of like it's a city park. It's half an acre, that's all. And it's right downtown here in Jackson. And we'll just get the harmonium and go out there and do some kirtan. And it's just kind of fun, and we're doing it kind of like not to be a disturbance or anything to other people like the passerbys, but it's just kind of like just some street music, and people get the benefit of listening to the spiritual music and everything like that. And it's just, people really like it, and people have always been, for the most part, pretty receptive to it. And people will come and they'll ask us questions, or they'll join in, or they'll just we make new friends, and I guess that's how you build a family, so to speak, a spiritual family. So we always encourage like kirtan if you feel like you want to learn some music and things, and that's what we share on this channel also. Like if you know me, I'll get into like the whole harmonium lesson sometimes and teach you guys how to play some tunes by ear, and teach you some new tunes or whatever. And if you guys have like particular songs that you like and you'd like to learn how to play them, just drop me a message on the website in the contact form. You can just go to TheBhaktiHouse.org/contact, or just go to TheBhaktiHouse.org, click on the contact link, and then that'll take you to the contact page, and there's a little form. You just fill that out. And, we've tried to develop that form over time to where it kind of covers a lot of different things, so people can just kind of click a button and it's easy peasy, right? Easy to go. And then, we'll get back with you and share whatever it is, like if you have something. And then typically, if you have something, it also benefits other people. Because if you want me to learn how to play a song for you, like a spiritual song or some kind of devotional song, we can do that. And then we'll put that in the YouTube videos, and then other people can learn that as well. So, it's always a lot of fun to kind of do those kind of things. So kind of the cool things like that. One of the reasons I decided to do a live stream here at the Bhakti House today instead of just kind of doing like an upload. A lot of times when I do the uploads, it's because I've already got sort of like a program or something kind of already in mind or already planned. Today I didn't really have that. I do tend to go a lot of times off the cuff. Whatever God gives me is what I tend to share. And a lot of times it's revolving around whatever is going on around here, whatever the mood is, or whatever the topic of discussion is that we're discussing here at the Bhakti House. We try to share that with everyone that's a part of our community, all of you guys out here, around the world and so on. And that way we can all kind of share in it together, and learn from one another. And if you want to leave comments or you have other thoughts or something like that, you can leave those in the comments in the descriptions of the videos. And of course, when you get a little bit of time and stuff, can respond to those and stuff, and we can carry on the dialogue. And other people as well can do the same. So these are kind of the things I wanted to address today. Plus, I typically will do about 20 minutes usually. Today, we went over that. It's 33 minutes, 34 minutes into this kind of live stream. And I know people are busy and they have a lot going on. And so I won't hold you guys up much longer, but I just want to say that I do appreciate all of you guys. And, I love all you guys. You guys are all family to me. And even though maybe some of you I've never even met, I still feel a real sense of like love and everything going on. I just had one of my godbrothers, Siddhari, he just WhatsApped me in a message while I'm on this, and was just inquiring like, how am I doing and everything, So Siddhari, if you're watching, I'm doing very good. Dhanyavaji. Thank you so much for always looking out for me. He's such a dear God brother. The devotees really are, right? So if you guys, if you guys if you guys want to really get more connected to the Bhakti House, we have so many really awesome books. I would say that definitely would encourage you guys to read. There's a novel, like if you like to read stories, and you want to get kind of a vibe of the Bhakti House, or, kind of see some interesting things going on, I'd recommend maybe reading the novel. I don't know if I'll be able to put it in the description below this video, but you can find it on Amazon and anywhere like really books are sold. I'm sure they probably will have it. It's just called The Bhakti House, and that's literally the name of the novel. The T-H-E, Bhakti, B-H-A-K-T-I, and then House, H-O-U-S-E. It's just The Bhakti House, and it's a novel. It's a spiritual novel, kind of love story also included in it. And it gives a lot of teachings through that novel and things. So sometimes, like I said, it's sometimes a story or some kind of narrative, and there's some truth involved in everything, right? So I'll leave it up to you after you read the novel. If you have some opinions or anything like that, please, of course, share those with me. You can just go to TheBhaktiHouse.org, click on our contact page, and then just reach me there. Or you can just go to Chandra@TheBhaktiHouse.org. That's just my email address here. I don't check it every day, but I check it fairly regularly. All right, guys. So anyways, much love and many blessings from the Bhakti House. If you guys need anything, of course, reach out. Much love and many blessings. Hare Krishna.